reason number 33 to get a Nissan. The cold. Because winter isn't done with us yet. Good thing the 2026 Nissan Rogue was built to conquer all conditions. With intelligent all-wheel drive, standard heated front seats, heated steering wheel, and heated mirrors, you can leave the worst of winter out in the cold. Lease the 2026 Nissan Rogue S starting at 0.4% for up to 36 months. Includes a 0.5% loyalty rebate for qualifying Nissan customers. Until March 2nd on approved credit. Conditions apply. Details at Nissan.
All right, everybody. Third hour of the Elias Makos Show. Having spoken to our guest during the break, boy, I think we're going to hit you with a lot of bad news over the next few minutes because we're going to talk about the battery industry. We're going to talk about Northvolt and what's going to happen to your taxpayer money. Now, yesterday, Premier François Legault said at the National Assembly that he doesn't want to put any more money into Northvolt. Of course, that company currently under financial stress. And it is our real pleasure. My goodness, we're really lucky this morning because Raphaël Duguay is joining us. He's an assistant professor at the Yale School of Management. Home for you, Raphaël. You know, you're a born and raised Montrealer, but home for you is now New Haven, Connecticut.
That's right.
And you're in town. You just happened to be in town this week, so we got you in studio.
Good timing.
Well, that's amazing to have you here. Someone who knows his economic file and a whole bunch of dossiers. So why don't you tell our listeners, how did we end up where we are with this Northvolt plant and project that may go belly up?
Well, thank you, Elias, for having me on the show. So the first thing is that we don't have the full picture at this point. We've got bits and pieces about those debt contracts. They've been kept confidential. I mean, at the National Assembly, the opposition has been pushing to see the debt contracts. The government hasn't released them. But here's what we know so far. Northvolt isn't doing well. The government, we know, has put a lot of money in. So the Quebec government has put, I think, already $700 million. But there's a lot more money that's promised that could come in the future. So they've put in that money, and then right now, Northvolt is struggling with cash. They're low on cash. We call that a liquidity crunch. Even when it comes to making payroll, they're worried. So they need more cash. Now there's this big bank called Goldman Sachs that has been stepping in. They've got other lenders with them, and they're offering to put in more cash. But there's a condition. They're asking the Quebec government to make some sort of concession here.
What's the concession they want?
So we don't have all the details about exactly what it is. They might be asking for collateral in Northvolt, Quebec, but that type of situation is not completely unusual. So you got to understand that when a company borrows money, there's something called debt seniority. So some people get paid first, and then some people get paid last. Now, when a company is not doing well, like Northvolt, no one wants to put in more money unless they know they're going to be paid first. And they have to ask the current debt holders, in that case the Quebec government, if they're willing to get them go first.
So it sounds like, well, if you're the Quebec government, it's a rock and a hard place, right? Well, if you don't allow more money to come in, the company's going to go belly up. If you allow the money to go in, well, the company may go belly up, and then you're going to lose your priority in getting your money back.
You put it very well. So that's exactly the dilemma that the Quebec government is facing. So if they say yes to Goldman Sachs, we're going to make a concession, we'll let you go first. Well, that means that they believe that that extra money is going to help. It's going to allow Northvolt to stay alive, and hopefully it's going to survive and things will be okay. If they believe that Northvolt is just going to go belly up, then they're going to say, we want to remain, higher up in the hierarchy to be paid. But think about Premier Legault right now, the situation he's in. He's in a very, very difficult place politically. Yeah. I mean, he sold that project, right, to Quebecers. He said this was going to be the next James Bay project. It was going to be the deal of the century. So no matter what he does, actually, right now, the opposition is going to use it against him. So if he goes ahead and says yes to Goldman Sachs, I mean, people are going to say, see, now right now we don't have the same guarantees that we have. We're more at risk. Are you playing, are you playing roulette with the taxpayers' money? And if he says no and Northvolt goes belly up, then there you go. Like all his promises are up in the air at that point. So very difficult for him to know what to do at this point.
Pick your poison right here. Now, I got to ask you, what do you think went wrong? Because I'm looking south of the border, right? And I'm going to name some big players in the battery business. CATL, they're opening plants in the U.S. LG is opening plants in the U.S. Panasonic opening plants in the U.S. Tesla announced their earnings yesterday. They're full steam ahead on new battery plants. So some players in the battery industry are doing well and doing well financially. How do we end up in a spot where we picked a company that's not doing well?
I mean, it was a known risk from the beginning. Northvolt is a startup, so we didn't know if they were going to do well or not. But you alluded to the subsidies that the American government has been offering, and I think that's a very important point. So under the Biden administration, they've been offering a lot of subsidies to companies, and then Quebec and Canada, especially Quebec, wanted to be a player in that sector. And they said, well, we're going to have to match those subsidies and probably even offer more. So we had to offer a lot of subsidies to get Northvolt to come to Quebec. And I believe there's such thing as a winner's curse. So you end up having them to come to Quebec, but maybe we gave them too many subsidies. We've been putting too much money from the taxpayers in that deal. I'm not a big fan of the government intervening in the economy. Sometimes if the American taxpayers want to pay for batteries through their subsidies, let it be. Let them do it, and then we can buy cheaper batteries that are paid for by the American taxpayers.
But if you're going to spend money, right? So in both situations, north of the border, south of the border, right? Governments have decided we're going to spend money on this green transition. In the States, it has been, here's our subsidies. Everyone can have access to them. In Canada, well, so it's Quebec giving money to Northvolt, federal government giving money to Volkswagen along with Ontario. We are picking companies. If you're a government and you've made the decision, well, we're going to spend money, even if it's not the greatest idea in your opinion, if you had to choose one of those two courses, which would have been the better course?
In the first place, the idea of the government picking who's going to get the money or not, I'm more kind of a carbon tax type of person, which is better than pure interventionism. But the situation right now, I think they wanted to have their own player. They wanted to have one. All the other ones, like you mentioned, seem to have been taken by the U.S., Ontario, and then they went for whoever they could get.
Do you have a crystal ball on Northvolt? What do you think will happen?
I wish I knew. It's hard to tell. I'm not very optimistic. So the demand for the batteries and the EVs has not been as high as people expected. So we don't know what's going to happen. I believe that Northvolt will remain viable, especially the plant in Sweden. But the shareholders might lose a lot of money. Some of the lenders, including the Quebec government, might lose a lot of money in the process. But I think Northvolt will continue to operate.
But you said the plant in Sweden.
In Sweden. So
t'as pas mentionné l'usine au Québec.
I haven't mentioned the one in Quebec because we don't know what's going to happen. I'm almost hoping that the one in Quebec, that the project doesn't go through, because the amount of subsidies that have been promised going forward, we're talking about, all in all, if we look at the provincial and federal subsidies, about $7 billion. A lot of it will only be paid out once the plant starts producing, if it does. But that's a lot of taxpayers' money, and I'm not sure we're getting the bang for the buck here. Will it ever happen? At this point, we're not sure. We don't know yet.
If you had to give advice to François Legault on the choice of the two bad options you mentioned, between rock and hard place, a deal with Goldman Sachs or just pray and hope, what would be your advice?
I would go for the latter. So I think I would not make any concession with the current loan, the way the debt contracts are set up. And I think that's where Premier Legault is leaning towards at that point. Time will tell. We don't have all the details yet. But I would take the gamble of things not working out. And the worst that can happen is whatever has been invested might be lost. But we've got a guarantee with the land in Quebec and so on. So.
Raphaël Duguay is an assistant professor at the Yale School of Management, originally from Montreal. He went to Dawson and Concordia, then McGill. I knew there was a reason I liked you, Raphaël, because you went to Dawson, right? And I knew there was something there. Thank you for coming in and making some time for us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Elias.